Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn, and I just got back from SCGCON Orlando, where I competed in the very first ever Stoneseeker Cup series for Wonders of the First. And I did manage to take second place in the constructed main event, which I'm really proud of, but that's a video for another day. This video is all about the $10,000 sealed main event happening on Sunday, which I did make it into the top 8 for, ended up finishing in 6th place, but the finals saw JAKE CHAIMOWITZ, otherwise known as @𝐻𝐿 Kitsune on Discord, facing off against Abel J, claiming the first place championship for the first ever date of the Stoneseeker Cup series for the $10,000 sealed event. It was an absolutely legendary match, leveraging a ton of tempo plays, and you're gonna have to see it to believe it. That being said, you're in luck because I recorded the entire thing and I'm going to show it to you guys with full commentary, breaking down every play that these players are making. It's an absolutely crazy match and I can't wait to get to it. One last thing before we dive in. I did want to mention that a lot of the players in this sealed event were Magic the Gathering professional players that learned how to play the game that same weekend and then competed. In fact, 6 of the top 8 spots were claimed by Magic the Gathering pros that didn't come from the Wonders of the First community that all learned how to play like the night before, which is kind of insane. Both finalists, first and second place, Jake and Abel, they were both players that learned how to play the night before, and the fact that Magic players can learn how to play this game at such a high level so quickly gives me a lot of hope for the future, a lot of hope that a ton of Magic players might come into the community and try to throw their hat at this and see if they can take first place at future events, and I'm excited to see where it all leads. So I'm really hoping the community grows. I'm really excited. Congratulations to Jake for taking the win. Let's check out the match. The finals for the $10,000 sealed deck tournament for Wonders of the First has begun. Abel is at the top of the screen facing off against Jake, otherwise known as @𝐻𝐿 Kitsune on Discord, and he'll be at the bottom of the screen. Each player offers their opponent a cut and shuffles up before drawing a hand of 7 cards. It'll be interesting to see if either player decides to mulligan. Both players in the finals here are very new to the game and don't have a ton of experience, only learning how to play over the weekend. That being said, they're both incredibly good players that were able to pick up this game very quickly and compete at a very high level right out of the gate. And here we see them drawing their hands. It's also worth noting that in tournament play, competitive play, you don't roll to see who gets to go first. Instead, that option is given to the top seed. So whoever has the best record going into the finals gets to choose whether they're going first or going second. It looks like Abel's going to put back at least 1 card. And it looks like Jake's putting back 3. I tend to see this strategy a lot, putting back as many cards as possible, just to get that many cards closer to the things that you need or your most powerful cards in the deck. Especially in Limited, where you have 1 or 2 cards that are probably way more powerful than the rest of your pool. Wanting to dig and get that much closer to those cards, even if they're not in the 3 that you redraw during the mulligan, is a pretty sound strategy a lot of the times. So it looks like Jake is going to be on the play. They're going to draw their card for the round. And Jake is mulling over his options. It looks like he's going to drop a Glacium Keep here. Pretty strong way to start, especially if he has any Thowwind Wonders in his hand. Let's see what Abel does. He also drops a land, an Eclipse Enclave, which will give him a Boundless Link. Again, a very strong play if he has Boundless Wonders in his hand that can take advantage of the cost reduction. And now Jake's looking to drop a Dark Iron Fish. He's getting as much value as he can out of that early land drop in 𝐻𝐻 with the Glacium Keep, making sure to get a Dark Iron Fish out on round 1 by only spending 1 energy. But Abel follows it up by playing an Ashen Leaf, which is probably one of the better cards you can get as far as commons and uncommons go in Sealed. It's going to put a shield counter on one of his lands, but he's also going to gain the ability to harvest this to get an action later in the game. It looks like Jake's going to take advantage of the power shortage and swing in and take the stone in round 1. His 4 power to Abel's 2 power. But Abel's got a plan, so he's going to harvest the Ashen Leaf and get an action back. And then it looks like Jake passes, and Abel uses that action to play a Dreamweaver Sloth. This means that Abel's at 5 power in Realm 1. And even though Jake already took the stone, he's only got 4 power to defend it with that Dark Iron Fish. Which means that Abel's going to use that extra action he generated from the Ashen Leaf to now attack in Realm 1, take the stone back, and it's worth pointing out that whoever took the last stone gets to start and play first in the next round, so he does have an advantage going into round 2 here. They're both going to draw a card for the round, and Abel will be on the play. Let's see what he does. Looks like he's thinking hard about what to do in this situation, how to keep the advantage that he gained during round 1. Both players sort of mulling over their options here. And it looks like Abel is going to spend an action to draw a card. He's digging for answers or just more pressure to put on the board. Let's see how Jake follows it up. Looks like Jake's going to spend an action to play another land, this time an unknown 𝐻𝐻. Honestly, that's a pretty good play. Having 2 𝐻𝐻 lands down means he only needs to play a 3rd 𝐻𝐻 land to untap that Glacium Keep and get an extra action out of it later on. So by getting a 2nd 𝐻𝐻 land down now, he's building towards this extra value he can get in the end game. And it looks like Abel's going to follow up by dropping a 𝐻𝐻 Azimuth. It's only 5 power now, but when it ascends, it becomes an absolute monster. So it definitely feels like both players are trying to build long-term value for the late game with their early rounds. Jake is thinking carefully about what his next action will be. It does seem like Abel has a ton of power in Realm 2, and he might not be able to compete yet. Carefully considering all of his options in his hand. The 𝐻𝐻 is a real threat. Even just 5 power right now is pretty huge in round 2. He decides to drop a Koi Scale in Realm 1. So he's basically giving up on Realm 2 altogether, at least for now, and trying to double down on Realm 1 and take back that first stone. If he does manage to take it back, the Koi Scale is a really good way to defend it, because the Koi Scale gets a +2 buff on defense. And you gotta remember that buff lasts for the entire round. So every single time it defends, it gets another +2 buff, and if it needs to attack back, it will attack with that buff. So it looks like Abel is going to swing in Realm 2 here and take the stone. That's what he set out to do when he originally dropped the 𝐻𝐻. And Jake's gonna follow suit and swing in Realm 1 and take back that stone there. I will say that it seems like Jake has a little bit of an advantage here because he was able to swing last and make sure he secures his ability to go first in round 3. It is the beginning of round 3, the 3rd realm is unlocked, and the 3rd stone is up for grabs. Looks like Jake will start at 4 energy, as will Abel. They both draw a card for the round. And Jake's trying to decide exactly how he wants to start. Seems like he's going to drop a land in Realm 3 and Emerald Clearing. This does give him a Trial Link, so if he has any green cards in his hand, he can get cost reductions, get out more value, more pressure for cheaper. Now Abel has to think hard about whether he wants to fight over Stone 1 some more, or just move on to Realm 3 and drop something there. It is worth noting that Jake's going to have the ability to temporarily buff something in Realm 3 from the Emerald Clearing when he does eventually decide to harvest it. So it is sort of paddling upstream, trying to go for the stone in Realm 3. You're always going to have 2 or 3 extra power in that realm than you would normally need, because he can just harvest at any time and turn that buff on. He decides to go for it and ends up dropping a Valkyria Valorum into Realm 3. It's only 2 power, but it does have flying, so after it attacks in combat, it can choose to move to an adjacent realm, and more importantly, it has Ascend, so it gets +6 at the start of round 7, just furthering his commitment to the long game. And Jake decides to counter with a Corvus Shadowwing, a flyer of his own. This one has 4 power, but it also has a special ability that makes it so that whenever a wonder he controls flies, he can move it an additional time to an adjacent space. So all of his flyers, after attacking, can now move 2 realms over instead of 1. Or anything in between. He doesn't have any other flyers yet, but there's no telling how many he could have in his hand. Abel's thinking carefully. He doesn't have the power he needs to take Realm 3 right now with just the Valkyria Valorum, and decides to drop a Rav Courtroom Mistress. That will give him an extra 3 power right away, giving him a total of 5 power to his opponent's 4 in Realm 3. But he also gains that tap-free ability of Rav's. Jake decides to cast a Seer's Gaze, allowing him to draw a card for each untapped land he has, which is insane card advantage right now, allowing him to draw 3 and just dig for the best cards in his pool. There's no telling what kind of crazy value that Jake now has in his hand. So Abel should be kind of worried. That being said, he is going to use his last action to attack in Realm 3 since he has 5 power to his opponent's 4, and he'll take the stone there. Looks like Jake's trying to decide if he should harvest the land or not. If he should come back this round or wait until the start of round 4. He does decide to harvest the Glacium Keep, and then plays a Kairos Mistral. 2 power with a tap-free ability that can stun target wonder in this realm. Abel needs to be really worried now, because that Rav is going to get tapped and never get access to its tap-free ability if Kairos Mistral stuns it. So if he wants to use it, he has to use it now. It's use it or lose it. He could theoretically debuff the Koi scale, but the problem is that the buff from the tap-free ability only gets applied to Rav herself, which still might be okay if he wants to keep Jake from swinging in 3. Jake decides to stun the Rav is tapped, it loses its tap-free ability forever, and also has its base power reduced to 0. Which means now, Jake can harvest another land, get another action, so that he can swing again in Realm 3 and take that stone back, while Rav is still at 0 power, because at the start of next round, it's going to go back up to its normal 3. This puts Jake in the lead at 2 stones to 1, going into the next round. And it's the beginning of round 4. The 4th realm is unlocked. The 4th stone is up for grabs. Both players will draw a card for the round. And because Jake took the last stone, he actually gets to start now. It'll be interesting to see if he tries to defend one of the stones he has, or goes gung-ho swinging, trying to take the stone in Realm 4 now. He decides to play an Oakthorn's Elysium into Realm 4, another land, continuing to stock up value for the late game. This land in particular will untap if he plays a third Patria land. And he's already got 2 out, so again you're seeing him set himself up for extra actions in the late game if he can draw into that third Patria land or that third Thalwind land for the Glacium Keep that he played on round 1. Looks like Abel's thinking carefully about his next move. Does he want to go for 4? No. He's going to play another land as well, this time a Warfang Fortress. On Harvest, all wonders in this realm get Death Strike this round. It can be incredibly good, but it is worth pointing out that it gives all wonders Death Strike, even your opponent's wonders, so you have to be very careful with how you use it. And Jake follows up by playing another Seer's Gaze. He only gets to draw 2 cards this time because 2 of his lands are tapped. But it's possible that he might be able to draw into a third Patria land or third Thalwind land to access even more actions from those lands he has in play. Who's gonna make the first move? Right now, Jake is still in the lead, 2 stones to 1. And Abel needs to shake things up. He's thinking carefully. The first 3 realms are pretty much locked down right now. He decides to drop a Deep Pincher in Realm 1. A 4-cost 3-power wonder that on attack creates a 1-power insect token wonder in the same realm. And it also has Death Strike. Incredibly powerful card. And it's worth pointing out that it makes the 1-power insect token on attack. So that 1-power insect token is actually there when you're adding up numbers and deciding who wins the combat. The order of operations is on attack triggers, on defense triggers, on battle triggers, then you decide the outcome, then you initiate any Death Strike. How is Jake going to get in front of that Deep Pincher? That thing can create an insane amount of value because of the Death Strike. If he manages to swing in and take the stone, not only does he increase his power, but he kills his opponent's best creature on the other side. It's going to be really, really, really hard to take back Realm 1 after a move like that. He could fly Corvus over if he wanted to, but I feel like that's kind of just a band-aid and doesn't solve the problem long term, because he really needs his Corvus power elsewhere. Looks like he's almost decided what he should do next. Let's see what he decides to drop. Thinking carefully, seems like he has cold feet. It's not unexpected, a lot of these cards are very new and players are trying to figure out exactly how to use them best. He decides to drop a Tearing Faya, a 6-cost 6-power wonder. It has Symbiosis, so it can copy the abilities, the entire text box of any wonder that has the same power as it, in this case 6. But also on arrival, you can put up to 2 +1 counters on a wonder, and up to 2 -1 counters on another target wonder. Let's see where he decides to put those counters. Looks like he's going to put 2 +1 counters on his Koi scale. Reconsidering? Nope, he decides to drop them. And then the 2 -1 counters... Where is he going to put those? Looks like he decides to put them on the Deep Pincher. I do want to point out that I think he overlooked the fact that you can use the counters from Tearing Faya to adjust powers so that then you can have Symbiosis resolve second. The active player gets to choose what order that on arrival and that Symbiosis happens in. So if he wanted to, he could have put the 2+1 counters on his Corvus, making his flyer 6 power and that much stronger, and then also did Symbiosis copying the Corvus because it's now 6 power, and his Tearing Fire would also be a flyer that would also retain the ability to let flyers fly an extra realm when they do. Which means both his Corvus and his Tearing Fire would have been 6 power flyers that could fly up to 3 realms, which would have been utterly insane. I think that was probably the right play here, but again, being newer players, it's easy to overlook lines like that. Still, putting the 2+1 counters on the Koi scale and the 2 -1 counters on the Deep Pincher is still a really strong play, giving him a swing in both Realm 1 and in Realm 4. He decides to harvest and reveals an Orionis Skydreamer. As long as the top card revealed is a boundless card, he gets to draw it. And it is, so he'll draw the Orionis. Pretty lucky hit there, especially for sealed. You usually have so many different cards of different orbitals, different colors. So hitting something in particular like that in sealed is actually pretty tricky to do. The fact that Abel managed to do it, it's pretty powerful. But now Jake knows that Abel has an Orionis in his hand. Just want to point out again that he's got a swing in both Realm 1 and Realm 4. He has the upper hand with just that one Tearing Fire. And it looks like he's considering carefully whether or not he should play this card into Realm 1. He decides to go for it, drops a Floki Born in Fire, a 1-cost 2-power wonder, but it has the Horde 1 ability, so as long as he has at least 1 stone under his control, it'll get a +2. So it's actually a 4-power wonder for only 1 energy. Which is really, really good to just buff up Realm 1 right now. He also has an ability where if it's round 1, the first time you seize a stone you gain an action. We're long past round 1 at this point, so that part will be useless. But still makes the card even better if you happen to have it early in the game. But even just 4 power for 1 energy later on is nothing to scoff at. Looks like that evens up the odds in Realm 1. Jake can't effectively hold down, so Abel's going to swing in, take the stone, and kill the Koi scale. And that'll be it. We'll go into round 5. Since Abel took the last stone, he gets to start here, which is a pretty good advantage going into the later rounds. And now he's absolutely dominating in Realm 1 because he took out one of his opponent's defenders. His best defender, the 4 power that becomes a 6 power on defense. And he has a metric ton of power in Realm 1 to lock it down. So more than likely, Jake's going to have to pivot, focus on other realms, and give up on Realm 1. Part of the strategy in this game is figuring out when to cut your losses and take advantage of the fact that your opponent overcommitted to a realm, put a lot of their value into the same realm, and so now you just give up on that realm and move on and focus on others, and all of that value that they put there is essentially wasted and useless as long as you don't need that stone to win. Being able to pick your battles and decide which realms to do that in as the game progresses is definitely high level play and part of the strategy. Both players are carefully considering their next move. Realm 5 is now unlocked with another stone up for grabs. Abel is winning 2-1, so Jake needs to make a big move here. Very curious to see what happens next. It looks like Abel wants to read Jake's land realizing that the land can be tapped and harvested to also give a +2 buff for an entire round, which definitely changes the math in Realm 3. He decides to drop Orionis Skydreamer into Realm 3. It's going to cost him a whopping 5 energy, 4 because of the cost reduction. It has power and cost that scales with how many realms are unlocked. So with it being round 5 with 5 realms, it's now a 5 power, but by the end of the game it's going to be a 7 power. It also has a tap free ability that's really powerful. So Jake decides to swing in Realm 4, takes the stone with his Tearing Fire. I don't know if his opponent is going to bother to put up any kind of resistance there at all. It might be a situation where his opponent decides that Realm 4 is the battle he's not going to pick, and he's going to pivot into other realms himself. But that Orionis Skydreamer is really powerful under the right circumstances. That tap free ability can just take a stone as long as he has more power than any wonder on the other side. Not all of them. So it's really, really hard to fight against an ability like that. As of right now, it's tied up with 2 stones to each player, but Abel has the stone in Realm 1, and that's the tiebreaker. So if the game finishes with an equal amount of stones on each side, Abel will win if he still has the stone in Realm 1. It looks like he's going to declare an attack in Realm 3 and take the stone. He's also going to utilize the flying on Valorum and move it over into Realm 4. So maybe he isn't entirely giving up on Realm 4. If he can commit a little bit of extra power there, he can easily take that stone. In fact, he doesn't even need to commit any extra power there. He can just wait until round 7 and the Ascend will kick in, giving him more power than the Tearing Fire. So he could just be patient and take it in round 7. Jake ends up playing another Dark Ironfish into Realm 5. I think he's just hoping that his opponent is running out of gas, and eventually he's going to be able to take a stone in a realm where his opponent can't drop anything to resist it. But that's not the case here. Abel drops an Enraged Bear, a 3-cost 4-power wonder that on defense gets +3 this round. What's cool about those on defense triggers too is it lasts for the entire round. So if Jake decided to attack in and take the stone, not only would Enraged Bear be a 7 on defense, but it would keep that buff, and if it ever needed to attack back to try to retake the stone, it would attack as 7 power as well. Looks like Jake has made a decision. He's gonna drop an Orionis himself. Orionis Skydreamer on both sides of the board, with his being in Realm 5, and him also having access to that same tap free ability that can just steal a stone under the right circumstances. Very powerful plays from both players here. Looks like Jake's thinking about harvesting a land, and it makes sense to try to harvest the Oakthorn's Elysium, because the hope is eventually he'll play a 3rd Betrayal land and untap it. So he uses that extra action to swing in Realm 5, takes the stone, and we're moving on to round 6. It's the beginning of round 6. The 6th realm is unlocked. The 6th stone is up for grabs. Both players draw a card, and things are getting really spicy now. And Orionis on each side is kind of crazy. And both players have flyers. So there's a lot of versatility with this board state, a lot that each player can adapt to. Since Jake did take the last stone in Realm 5, he gets to go first here. It's worth pointing out that if you're in a position where you're winning, it might be beneficial to pass, making your opponent run out of actions before you do. He rereads the card, starting to realize that next round, Realm 5, or rather Realm 4, will be in trouble. He uses an action and decides to play an adorable vermin. This card has been really powerful for Jake pretty much all day. It's only 1 power, but it has a tap-free ability to put a -1 counter on all non-mouse wonders. There are only 3 mice in the entire game: the adorable vermin, 𝐼�ZIK's Sparkpaw, and the Moonfire Crystal Mouse, which is pretty much the best common in the game. So right now on the board, the adorable vermin is the only mouse. If he decides to pop that, every single wonder other than the adorable vermin will get -1. The big benefit to that in a board state like this is any realm where you have less wonders than your opponent, it's going to affect them a lot more than you. I don't know if he's ready to actually use the tap-free ability yet and pop it, but it seems like he's considering it. The thing is, once you play the adorable vermin and it's in play, your opponent knows it's there and they try to play around it. Make sure they don't overcommit too many wonders to a realm where you have less. They want to make sure that ability is symmetrical if possible. Abel decides to drop an Ethereal Enigmist, an absolute monster. 4 cost, 7 power, no abilities. But honestly, in this game, some of the vanilla wonders that don't have any abilities are some of the best cards. Just getting an insane power boost for the most efficient cost possible can be really powerful. Especially if you're in Constructed and you're playing against a Nullify deck, because it makes those Nullify decks not be able to affect your board as much. Nullify being an ability that blanks out an entire text box. But even in Limited, having that high power play for a very efficient cost can be super swingy. And it's definitely making Jake think twice. He decides to spend an action. What is he going to play? Is he second guessing it now? Nope. He plays a Wretched Mirror of Requiem. This is a 2-cost item that makes it so the next time an enemy wonder arrives in any realm, its owner has to sacrifice it, but then you have to sacrifice the Wretched Mirror. It's pretty good at locking down a current board state, especially if your opponent's running out of gas and maybe they only have some really big, really powerful wonders left in their hand. So Abel here, he really needs to have a very cheap wonder that he can drop and get rid of that mirror quickly. He decides to play Hex Hunter X11, which has a tap-free ability making attacking enemies get -1 this round. But he's basically just dropping it to pop the mirror. So the mirror's gone. Hex Hunter is also gone in the Abyss. And now it is Jake's play. Looks like both players are kind of running low on cards, which makes sense at this point in the game, especially without a lot of card draw. Although we did see 2 Seer's Gazes from Jake. Looks like he's thinking about popping the mouse, and he decides to go for it. He's gonna tap free the adorable vermin, put a -1 counter on pretty much everything except the adorable vermin. And here's where things get really crazy. They need a ton of counters to give everything -1. And the cascade begins. Adorable Vermin can be really powerful under the right circumstances. It looks like in Realm 1, he's going to have a 3 power lead because of the Vermin. In Realm 2, he gets a 1 power advantage. In Realm 3, it'll basically cancel out because they both have 2 wonders. In Realm 4, it'll only affect 1 wonder on each side, also canceling out. And then in Realm 5, it'll affect 2 wonders on each side. So it really only gets him any kind of advantage in Realm 1 and 2. But seeing as those are 2 realms in which his opponent controls the stones, and he's most likely to try and fight for, I guess it kinda makes sense to pop the Vermin. And also, if you want to try to play more wonders into a realm and have more wonders in a realm than your opponent, you want to make sure and pop that Vermin ASAP so that you can start to build up extra value in a realm and not get it to a power deficit by hitting your own stuff more with the Vermin than the stuff on the opponent's side. So popping him quick does make a lot of sense. Getting that little bit of negligible value in Realms 1 and 2, helping to sort of come back a little bit, also makes sense. Although in Realm 1, he just has so much power that I don't know how much it's actually going to matter. Kind of a crazy board state. It's also worth pointing out there that there's actually a 1 power insect token in Realm 1 that's not being represented right now. But I was watching this game live and I noticed, so I actually did end up bringing over a die later on to represent that wonder. You'll see it pop up in a little bit. Abel decides to play 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿 Soul Forger, a 4 cost with 3 power, but on arrival put target wonder you own with cost 4 or less from the Abyss into this realm. He's able to bring back that Hex Hunter. This is actually a masterful play, using the Hex Hunter to get rid of the Wretched Mirror first, knowing that sacrificing the Hex Hunter you're just going to be able to get it back with 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿. And to a certain degree it does make sense to try to save that 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿 in case your opponent has removal, kills one of your better wonders, you can get back the absolute most value possible. But with this game getting very close to the end, and there not being any other wonders in the Abyss, and it seems like Jake doesn't really have any removal to get rid of anything powerful on Abel's side, I think it is really smart to use that 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿 to get back the Hex Hunter, and it seems like he lined up that play perfectly. Both players are carefully considering how to end round 6, possibly making final actions before going into round 7, the final round of the game. Jake is carefully considering his options. He needs to make sure he sets up a really strong start to round 7. Looks like he wants to spend some energy, but he keeps second guessing whatever he's thinking of playing. Now he looks like he's adding up the power in Realm 1, trying to do some math, and figure out if it's even worth trying to fight over that stone. If he has enough power in his hand, it might be worth it considering that's the tiebreaker stone. But he's going to need a really big swing to make it happen. So it makes sense that he's carefully considering that. And I believe this is the point in the game where we realized that the 1 power token wasn't there. The insect token from when the Deep Pincher attacked. That being said, it would have gotten a -1 counter from the Adorable Vermin, so it would still be a 0 power wonder and not really matter. But as you can see, we made it a point to still represent it there with a die. Set to 0. It could matter under certain circumstances. Jake seems like he knows what he wants to play, but he's doing all the math, and trying to be absolutely sure. And he does it. He drops a Master 𝐻𝐻𝐻. It's a tuned Patria, so it doesn't even cost him an action to play. It only contributes 3 power, but it does untap a Wonder on arrival. So he gets to untap his Kairos Mistral, getting access to that stun ability again. Setting up the ability to stun one of his opponent's Wonders in the final round is really powerful. Although I am kind of curious why he decided to play the Master 𝐻𝐻𝐻 into Realm 1. He must have something else in his hand that he's accounting for as far as math in that realm. Maybe he's trying to set himself up for the potential to drop one more Wonder there and have enough power to swing for the stone in the final round. Either way, getting to untap the Kairos Mistral is really, really powerful going into the last round. So Jake is well positioned. Even though he's technically losing right now 2 stones to 3, I think he has a really, really powerful board state going into the final round. Again, a lot of that just depends on whatever he happens to have in his hand as well. And his opponent isn't over. Abel's going to tap a land to harvest. And then Jake's going to tap the Kairos Mistral in order to stun the Orionis. So not only is it reduced to 0 base power, but it's also going to lose its ability entirely. That being said, it doesn't even matter because it has a -1 counter on it. So when Orionis' base power goes to 0, that -1 counter is still there, ends up bringing him to -1 power, and he dies. It's important to note that in this game, if you go to 0 power, the Wonder doesn't die from that, but if they go to -1 or less, they do die. Looks like Abel decided to attack in Realm 1 and kill the Master 𝐻𝐻𝐻 just to make sure that Jake wasn't mounting a power comeback in that realm. Definitely a smart play. But losing that Orionis, losing access to that tap ability, is a huge, huge swing for Jake. Both players carefully deciding when and if they should end round 6. It's honestly kind of anyone's game right now, and it really comes down to whatever cards both players have in their hands. It would be in Jake's best interest to attack in Realm 3. Now that there's lower power there, take the stone, and he does exactly that. Because now his opponent would have to spend 2 actions there in order to take the stone back. One to play a new Wonder, buffing his power level to be higher than Jake's, and then another action to attack there and take it back. So going into the final round, a play like that is really strong, forcing your opponent to commit multiple actions in order to just make a swing in just one realm. And it also looks like Jake's going to decide to fly the Corvus for the first time in the match. Because of his ability, he gets to fly an extra realm over. Normally, you can only fly into an adjacent realm, but Corvus's ability lets him fly 2 over. He does miscalculate a little bit there, trying to put it in a realm that's 3 away, and then decides to pivot and put it in realm 4. Making sure he has enough power at the start of round 7 to still defend against that ascending Valeria Valcorum. And it is the beginning of round 7, the last round of the game. The 7th realm is unlocked, the 7th stone is up for grabs. Both players draw a card at the beginning of the round. And since Jake was the last person to take a stone, he actually gets to start. And he's winning now, 3 stones to 2. They're noting the fact that Valeria Valcorum ascended at the beginning of the round. It's up to 8 power. But Jake has a total of 10 power in Realm 4 now because the 4 power Corvus flew in. Excuse me, 11 power because the adorable Vermin is still there as well. And remember, even though wonders are tapped, they still contribute their power to the realm. They're also taking a look at Zenith Azimuth and noting its ascension. Looks like he's going to harvest the land there and buff up his Kairos Mistral plus 2 power. We noted that that was a possibility earlier in the game, but it's really smart to do that as your first action in round 7 because now they're tied in Realm 3. And Abel's going to need more power if he wants to swing in and take the stone there. They're both carefully considering every single opportunity, every single card in their hand. It's really coming down to the wire. It looks like Abel only has 2 cards in hand. And Jake doesn't have too many cards in his hand as well. Can Abel make a play to pull this out? That's the question. I think that Jake getting priority and securing that stone in Realm 3 made a huge difference. If Abel was on the play and was able to attack before he could have done that and take the stone, that plus 2 buff would not give him enough power to take it back. And the game would have completely swung in the favor of Abel at that point. I'm actually kind of curious if Jake had that in mind and set that up in round 6, made sure he was the last person to take a stone, so that he could do that play at the beginning of round 7. That was probably the case, to be completely honest. I think he's been saving that land to harvest for that very reason. And now Abel decides to tap free the Hex Hunter. So every single attacking wonder of Jake's for the rest of this entire round attacks with -1 power. Which is really, really powerful under the right circumstances. Like I said before, I think if Abel had managed to take that stone and got the first action this round first, before popping that Hex Hunter, it would have made all the difference in the world. Unfortunately, Jake has a pretty big tempo advantage now, requiring Abel to make multiple plays if he has any hope of taking back stones that Jake controls. He decides to swing in Realm 6, evening it up 3 stones to 3 stones, with Abel having the tiebreaker stone in Realm 1. Looks like Jake has a play in mind. He's going to follow it up by dropping a Floki Born in Fire. That's another 4 power in Realm 7. It's worth pointing out that it's much more action efficient to try and take a stone from your opponent rather than take a new stone. If you use an action to take a stone from an opponent, not only do you get a stone, but they also lose a stone, and it's a bigger swing. Still, that Floki Born in Fire is plenty of pressure in Realm 7. And now Abel has to think about the fact that not only does he want to take a stone from Jake, but he also would like to prevent Jake from taking the stone in 7, even if he doesn't take the stone there himself. So if he doesn't play anything to 7, Jake's in a position to get in a 4 stone to 3 stone lead, which could still swing in Abel's favor if he's able to take one of Jake's stones. Looks like Abel passes since he knows he's in the lead. Jake attacks, takes the stone in Realm 7, putting him in the lead, forcing Abel to have to drop a Slayed Darkfur into Realm 3. Pretty crazy card. Not only is it a tuned Patria and can be played without spending an action if you have a Patria land, although it's worth noting that Abel doesn't have a Patria land right now, so he doesn't get to utilize that attuned. But the main draw to slay Darkfur is, in addition to his 4 power, on battle he has a trigger where the first time this battles each round you get to deny 1, which basically self-mills it into the Abyss. And then if the denied card is a wonder, you give target wonder -X this round, where X is the denied wonder's power. Pretty crazy. You get to target any wonder with it too, not just a wonder in the same realm. So he gave himself the ability to not only attack in and take a stone in Realm 3, but also potentially just maybe kill any wonder if he hits something big enough. And even if he doesn't hit something super big, if he just hits something small and is able to nerf another wonder, that could still be very beneficial. I kind of wish that Abel was able to get this card out earlier. If he was able to play it and swing before the Floki Born in Fire could swing in Realm 7, he could have killed the Floki, making it so Floki could never attack there, while still taking the stone in Realm 3. That being said, it's really hard to line up those actions to resolve correctly to actually get to that point without Jake being given the option to attack in Realm 7. Both players are carefully considering what will amount to basically the last actions of the game. Abel decides to attack in Realm 3. He only has 1 action left, no lands to harvest, so he has to just go for it. And he hits an Ethereal Enigmist off the top, which means he gets to give anything he wants -7. Probably the best hit in his entire deck for a Slayed Darkfur. Could you imagine if he was able to use that card before playing the Karn Vox earlier in the game? He would have been able to bring back an Ethereal Enigmist. That would have been crazy. The question is, what does he kill? He knows he doesn't have any other actions and he can't attack again. So he really needs to just shore up his defenses and make sure his opponent can't take one of those stones back. Jake has 2 more actions to do it, so all he needs to do is drop 1 wonder that's powerful enough to swing a realm in his favor, and then use the final action to attack and he'll win. Assuming that he can take a stone from his opponent. He decides to get rid of the Kairos Mistral and shore up his defenses in Realm 3, which probably makes the most sense. There's a much bigger power differential in Realm 1, so he's probably much closer to being able to win a combat with whatever might be in his hand in Realm 3 than he would be in Realm 1. So get rid of the Kairos, shore up your defenses where you're weakest, and just hope that Jake doesn't have a powerful enough play to play in one of those realms to swing it in his favor. Looks like everybody's discussing the 𝐍 Azimuth. They're trying to figure out exactly the order of resolution for the Ascend ability that triggered at the beginning of round 7, plus the -1 counter. And I think it might be in regards to a play that Jake has in his hand. Something that he's very seriously considering dropping that somehow plays into the math of 𝐍 Azimuth. Like I said before, we're down to the last actions of the game, and in fact, Abel has no actions at all. So Jake just has to figure out how to solve this problem. He has all known info, there's no surprises coming, he just has to figure out a way to get there with what he has access to in his hand. With 2 actions. If he's forced to draw, he'll have to draw into something that's attuned in order to still have an action to attack back. But he might have an answer in his hand. It looks like he does. Ooh, I can see it coming. Looks like there's a Thorwing Shadowbeak. And he drops it. It looks like there's a Thorwing Thunderbeak. And he decides to drop it. Absolutely crazy. So he's going to stun the Zenith, which normally would die because of the -1 counter. But it looks like the judge was ruling that his Ascend ability triggered and gives him a buff that doesn't get stunned out with the Thorwing Thunderbeak. So he is still alive. That being said, Jake has more power there and is able to use his final action to attack in Realm 2, taking the stone. And with both players completely out of actions, Jake ends up winning 4 stones to 3. What an absolutely insane game. So many crazy plays that could have gone in so many different directions. And I'm super curious to see how this game would have turned out if either player has made just subtly different plays. And that's what I love about this game. Every time, every single game seems to just come right down to the wire, and it's anyone's game at the end. Very, very close games. Congratulations to Jake for the win. First place at the $10,000 sealed deck tournament at the first ever Stoneseeker Cup series at SCGCON Orlando. Congratulations, Jake. Congratulations on second place to Abel. You guys absolutely killed it, and I hope I see you guys at future events. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck techs, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.